Hello, everyone, and welcome to KAMDI Conversations. I'm your host, Tanya Hawley, and once again, I'm very happy to be with you. And of course, I have a very special guest, but this one's real special to me, and we'll talk about why a little bit later. But if you are a jazz lover, you are in for a treat this evening because you get to hear from a young lady who has a new release out. We're going to talk about. She is the sultry, the sexy, the sassy. She is Miss Sharon North. Welcome, Sharon.
Hey Tanya, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to have you here. It's been a minute.
It it has. We usually talk every once in a while, so yeah, but it's been
Yes.
a little bit, yeah.
Well, welcome and thank you so much. I appreciate you stopping by and
Well,
talking
thank
with
you.
us a little bit. Yes. And I meant that the sultry sounds, the sexy, sassy. She's got a little bit of it all mixed up in her personality and in her music.
Okay.
So, yes. So, welcome everyone. Again, if you have any comments or questions, be sure you post them and I'll be happy to ask Sharon for you, and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer.
Mhm.
So, hello, John Cunningham is here. Thanks for joining us. Hello. Let's Talk Under the Tree podcast. That's what the name is. Okay. Well, welcome. And hey, Keith Cobbin. Keith is here.
Oh, okay.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started, Sharon. We could probably talk all night, but we're going to
Mhm.
condense it. We're going to
Okay.
condense it a little bit. But I love to start from the beginning. So we're going to go back a few years,
Mhm.
just a few years, and tell us when and how this music interest for you started. Tell us, how did it come about?
Wow. I was born a singer, and
Mm.
I've known that since I was a very little girl. Growing up in Youngstown, like you.
Youngstown in the
Yeah.
house. I just had to say that. Okay.
Yeah. And I would be sitting next to my mom and dad's stereo, listening. I mean, my ear would be right at the speaker, and I would be listening to people like Nancy Wilson,
Mm.
um, King Curtis and the Kingpins, Charlie Parker, um, Della Reese. I would listen to the same music my parents listened to. Now, my
Mm.
sister and I, we also listened to children's records, Mary Poppins and Cinderella and stuff, but I loved listening to those voices. Um,
Mm.
well, Charlie Parker wasn't singing or anything, but when I was listening to people like Nancy Wilson or Barbara Streisand, and I didn't realize because I was so little that I was actually studying, because
Mm.
although I no longer sit on the floor next to the speaker, I still listen to voices the exact same way as I did
Mm.
back then. And I'm just fascinated by voices.
So,
So,
Sharon, let me ask this question because everybody you named was primarily jazz singers. We know you're a jazz artist. Was that was primarily what you heard in your home was jazz? Did you hear other music?
we heard a little bit of everything because, back in the day when they would have the Columbia records and people would join those record clubs and get all those
Oh,
records.
yes.
So my parents, I think, belonged to that because there were always records showing up, delivered in the mail. So there were a lot of different types of genres of music at the house, but those were the ones that I tended to
Mhm.
gravitate toward, and
Okay, that's
for
what I like.
whatever reason. But yeah, that's what I like to listen to even as a kid.
Okay, so there was something about that you were attracted to jazz. It sounds like primarily
Mm-hmm.
because, and that's what I thought. I wanted to clarify that because you were listening to all a little bit of everything, but that stood out to you, and that's what you gravitated to.
Those voices,
Those
yeah.
voices in jazz.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So, did you do any singing in school or
Girl, I wanted to be in the high school senior play, and it was South Pacific, and
ah,
I tried out, and the lady would not let me in. She said, "Well, you have a nice voice, you just don't sing loud enough," and would not let me in the senior
oh,
play. And I think maybe we had choirs and stuff like that in school. I don't quite remember, but back then, I was a very shy kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little too scared to actually do it, in high school. My first actual performance in front of people, I was maybe about 19 or so, and my cousin asked me to sing, lift every voice and sing at an event for Black History Month at the McGuffey Center. And I did, and I was so scared. The I had the lyrics like on this little podium, like lectern, and I looked down like this at him the whole time because I was scared to look up at the people. And I
Mm-hmm.
was so glad that that podium thing was there because that prevented them from seeing my legs shaking. I mean, I was a nervous wreck. And people came up to me afterwards and were saying, "Oh, you have such a beautiful voice and stuff," but I'm thinking, I don't know if I'd be singing in front of people because I don't know. And then I
Mm.
just had to say to myself one day, your fear your fear is in a battle with your desire to sing, because
Mm.
I wanted to sing. I said, you have to make that desire stronger and greater than that fear, or you're not going to be able to do it. And so I did.
Wow. And so what was the first how did that happen? What was the first thing you did to make that happen? Do you
Man,
remember?
I don't even remember. It may have been something in the studio.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it probably was. But now to this day, studio makes me nervous. Studio makes me
Okay. The
live,
studio makes you nervous.
yeah, live audiences. I'm not nervous.
It's
But
like you transferred your fear, Sharon. You transferred from the live audience to the studio.
well, you know what I think it is really is like with a live audience, if my voice cracks or if I forget a word or something, it's oh well, we're out here now.
Right.
But in the studio, if I do that, it's like,
Mm.
okay, gotta do that over. Want to do that over. Let me go in and get that again. Let me, because you're striving so to make that project just perfect. Because once
Mm.
it's fixed. You're cutting for keeps. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
So and even now it's a little different with live performances because everybody's got their phone up, so they're recording you anyway.
That's
you know
right.
yeah, but there's something about that studio that's a little unnerving for me.
Well, I guess that makes sense though. And even when you do it right, the person producing or whatever may hear something else or want something else. So you may still have to keep doing it over, even though you thought it was right, right?
Don't I know about that?
Well, you would know more than me. I just heard the stories.
Yeah,
I've
no, oh yeah,
from you,
yeah.
as a matter of fact.
hmm yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, that was really good, but you got a better one. And I'm like, maybe I don't, maybe that was the better one.
They can pull it
So
out of you. That's why they're there, I guess.
yeah, you can work on one song for just ever, so, but, you know, they want the best. And I do too. I want everything to be as best.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. So you got over your fear, and
hmm
were you still in Youngstown when you got over this fear, or were you somewhere else?
I was in New York
Okay. And I
the
want to
first,
make sure I
yeah.
mention you while we're seeing the music side of you, the whole time you've had another career simultaneously. And I want to
hmm
talk about that too. So what have you tell everybody what else you do, your other
Oh,
life?
wow. In my other life, I've been in communications for many years. I
Mhm.
started as a news reporter, TV reporter.
Mhm.
Actually, I didn't start as a TV reporter. I started as a print reporter. I wrote for little newspapers. Then I went to radio, and then I went to TV because that was the track you did back then. Now it's a little different. And I did that for a long time. Local stations all over,
Mhm.
the East and Northeast. And then I went to CNN in Atlanta and I worked there for a few years. And then I did what so many of us do in this business. We decide to get out and get into the other realm of communication. So I got out and I took a position at Morehouse School of Medicine's National Center for Primary Care as a communications relations manager,
Mhm.
and did that for a minute, and then did health communication specialist as a contractor at CDC. Then for like 12 and a half years, I was the public information manager in Richmond, Virginia for their Department of Public Works with the city. And for about 18 months now, I've been in Northern Virginia, where I'm the communications section for the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services. So, yeah, and I'm an author too. So,
Yes, we were going to get to that. You weren't supposed to say that part yet,
okay.
Sharon. But she kind of slipped it in there. But we'll get to the author part. But you have quite the colorful background, and I love it because you can do both sides of it. As far as the PR for your music, because you have that background, which is really cool. But I wanted you to share that because you might have seen her on TV somewhere, everybody, doing the news some years ago.
I don't know, could have some.
Yeah, it was her. It was her. You weren't seeing things. It was her. It truly was her. Okay, I wanted to make sure I shared that because it's so colorful and you're still doing that. It amazes me. That's a full-time job you hold down, career, while you have two careers basically.
I do. I have the career that I chose and the career that chose me. And singing is the one that chose me. So no matter what else I do, whether it's a reporter or whether it's a communication section chief, the singer is always there because the singing is not what I do. That's what I am. Everything else is just something that I do, but the singer is always there because that's me.
Yes.
So, and I love that. I was in our hometown over the weekend. Yeah. I was in Youngstown for the Youngstown Wine and Jazz Festival. And it was a whirlwind weekend. I mean, I did so much. It was like a press junket. Channel 33, Madonna Chisholm's Community, whatever that show was called, radio stations, newspapers. It was everywhere. And then did the show. And I was at work on Monday morning.
And how long had it been since you have you ever performed in Youngstown?
No, other than the Lift Every Voice and Sing? No.
Sharon, I'm sorry, we can't count that one.
This was actually my first professional performance in Youngstown, and I was so pleased about doing that. And there were so many people there that I knew, and people that I'm kind of looking at like I know that person, but couldn't quite remember, their name and stuff. But it was a wonderful weekend. So many relatives came out.
Support, yes.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel? You have been gone for a long time, right? I don't know how many years it's been, but I know it's been a long time.
Over 25 years. And
so you come back as this jazz artist. Wow. And performing at the new amphitheater. I'll still call it new.
It is. I mean, it's only 3 years old.
Right. It's only 3 years old, and COVID was in between there. So it is really still new. And you get to perform at this brand new venue at a jazz and wine festival, and your family and friends are there to support you. I mean, this is where you grew up, where you went to high school, where you had I'm guessing your first job or one of your first jobs.
Absolutely.
What did that feel like, Sharon?
It was almost surreal, because when I think about, jobs, I worked in the merry-go-round in the Southern Park Mall. I worked at McDonald's in Boardman. I worked at the stadium at YSU. I mean, I had all these jobs, and then I got a real job, and I worked in the Youngstown Police Department for about 6 years as a civilian clerk. And wouldn't you know, a guy came to my dressing room and he was like, "Hi, Sharon." And I'm like, "Hi." And he's like, "I figured this has to be the same Sharon North. You don't remember me, do you?" And I'm looking at him, and I'm trying to remove the gray hair and stuff and see what he looked like back then. And I called his name. He's the head of security. And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm not a cop anymore." And I was like, wow, I haven't seen this guy probably since the early to mid 80s.
Wow.
And to have him stop in and speak to me, and I mean, to be brought on stage by a colleague from Channel 33, who was the MC for the evening. And then to see two of the former anchors in the audience, the female anchors, I'm like, everybody's here. It was just surreal. And, a lot of times when you perform, you're in these cities and you don't know your way around the city really, unless you've been there a lot of times before.
Right.
You really don't know anybody in the audiences, a lot of times. So to be at a place where I'm looking at people I know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at somebody that grew up 2 houses away from me from the time we were like 1 and 2 years old, and I'm looking at my dad's youngest sister, my aunt Bert. I'm looking at, well, my mom comes to a lot of shows, but my mom was there and cousins were there, and it was wow. It was really amazing to
I'm
have.
so happy you were able to do that. And speaking from, being from the same place, I truly am happy for you. A lot of same people. As a matter of fact, y'all, we kind of related, but we're not going to get into that
Yeah.
either. So,
we,
yes, she my cousin. I'm not just saying that. She really is. And her mom told me that. That's right.
the lady who did my makeup the other day,
Mhm.
um, we're talking, and she was like, "I think we're related because I heard long time ago." And as we started talking, I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah,
No,
it's
everyone is
crazy.
not related in Youngstown, everybody, but so thank you for sharing that. I'm so happy that that worked out for you. Let's
Mhm.
talk music a little bit, a lot actually. So when did you make your first CD?
The first one was a demo,
Okay.
and it had, I think, 4 songs on it, and it was made in maybe 2001.
Okay.
And I used that little demo, and it was straight ahead jazz standards,
Hmm.
because I love doing that stuff. And I used it to get gigs. I would send it out to people, would get copies of it made, and had my little promo kit because I know how to put one of those
Yes,
together.
you do. Yes.
And sending it out, getting gigs all over the place, with that one. And I was in Atlanta by then.
Okay.
And then in oh oh seven, we did The Way You Make Me Feel, which was, I think, an 8-song EP. And and then years later, in 16, Sincerely Yours came out. And that was a whole different ball game. It's 5-song EP.
Yes.
2 of the songs made the Billboard chart. One stayed on there for 11 weeks. Um,
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, the EP itself made the first ballot in the 59th Annual Grammy Awards in the Best Jazz Vocal Album category. And that was kind of a game changer. And 6 years later, we now are with the new album
Yes.
that's coming out.
Yes.
This is not an EP, it's an album. So
So to even be considered for a Grammy, Sharon, what was that like?
we were so shocked we didn't know what to do. Me and the producers and, songwriters, we were like, what?
How'd you find out?
Um, how did I find out? I mean, I submitted it,
Hmm.
but there's so many people
Right.
submitting, like
Right.
tens of thousands of people submitting. And I don't even remember how I found out.
And
I
which one
think
was that for, Sharon? I'm sorry. Which one was
that
that?
was for Sincerely
Okay.
Yours. And maybe I got an email. I don't even remember. But I was like,
Okay.
they're joking, right? And to see my name on that list with people like Renee Marie and Gregory Porter and all these
Yeah.
people. And I'm like, wow, because there's only 2 ballots.
Right.
And I was on the first one. The second ballot is, and the nominees are, you know.
Wow. That's awesome.
So yeah, it was crazy.
And
You
you've been on Billboard, you've charted. So I mean that in itself. Now tell me the first time you charted.
the first the first song that charted was Lonely Nights.
Okay.
And that's the one that stayed on for 11 weeks, and it peaked at number 15. And I have a radio promoter.
Hmm.
So he kind of let me know that was, you know, these things were in the works, and that the Billboard chart, he was like, you're gonna, you know, you're coming in next week, you're gonna be on. And I'm like, really? He was like, yeah, because they get, all of the information in advance,
Okay.
kind of know what's going on. And I'm like, oh, Billboard chart. He was like, yep, you made the chart. I was like, oh my gosh. And when it kept staying on there, I thought it would go on and drop off. But week after week after week, it was still there. And I was like, wow, and he was surprised too. We were all just amazed at how this was happening.
That is
So
wonderful.
great. Yeah.
You got to check out Sharon's music. We'll get to that toward. We'll make sure you have all the information. But Sharon, what was your most memorable experience since you've been either performing or singing, or whatever the most memorable thing is that comes to mind?
I have a couple of them that are just like neck and neck.
Okay.
I was asked in Richmond, Virginia, they used to have this summer concert series called Fridays at Sunset. And I was asked to do a show, and I was like, yeah, okay. And you're opening for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know who I was opening for at first. And then I found out that it was Joe Sample and the Crusaders.
Ooh.
Ooh. I was like a Joe Sample stalker. Love Joe Sample. And when the day of the show, when I pulled up for sound check, and they sound checked first,
Mm-hmm.
and when I opened my car door, they were sound checking to Street Life.
Ooh.
And I'm like, is this really happening?
Oh.
I'm listening to them sound check to Street Life, and it's Joe. I mean, I was just amazed. I was amazed. So that was one of them. Actually, there's like three. I was asked to open for Bob James, another one that I just absolutely love, Bob James. So those two. And then the third thing was I was at a festival called Hawley-The in the south of France. And right before I went on stage, the stage manager, who was French, said, I need to think they died. And I'm like, what? And he's like, he's real animated. He's like, I need to think they died. And I'm like, what are you saying? And then he showed me his phone, and it said, Aretha Franklin died.
Aretha Franklin, what?
Aretha Franklin died.
Oh,
That's
died.
Oh. Tell me.
Oh.
So I was they were just about to announce me. The lady was walking up, and I said, wait. So I'm like, we showed her, and she was like, oh my gosh. So I was going to be singing from this balcony for this portion of the festival. Festival is several days long. But the start of it is people singing from balconies, like the Troubadours did, a cappella. And the people are all down on the ground. And I was like, okay, we're going to switch up here. So I went out and I sang Natural Woman. And all of these people were down there. And 99.9% of them were, Francophones. They spoke French. They didn't, but music is so universal.
Yes.
That when I got to the You Make Me Feel, they were singing it.
Aww.
And I was like, oh, I almost started crying. I had to stop for a minute. I'm like, okay, I got to stop for just a minute and gather myself, because, I was so emotional about her dying. I was so emotional about all of this happening. And then I went on ahead and finished the song. But that was truly a memorable moment, to have a bunch of French speaking people singing along with me. And I'm up on a balcony.
Oh, wow.
In an old medieval French village in the south of France. I mean, it doesn't get any more cool than that one.
That is memorable.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have toured internationally, it's great that you were performing in France. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I went 2 years in a row, and then COVID hit. So I went 18 and 19, and then COVID, and haven't been back. But oh, how I love that place. I could live there.
Could you? Okay.
In the south of France. Just love it.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing those memories with us. I truly appreciate it. I love to hear the stories. I love the stories. So if you know what I want to do? I usually have my DJ with us. We don't have our DJ today, but I'm going to start. I want to play something. Let me see if I can work this thing out. I'm not the technical person, but I think I got it. And I I think I'll play your newest video last. I want to play my favorite Sharon Ray North song. I don't
I
know if you
know what it is. I know what it
you
is.
know what it is. I tell you this all the time. I don't care how many new songs you come out with. This is going to always be my favorite. So let me see what I can do here. Let me work some magic, Sharon. Hang on. Let's see what happens. And I could.
Okay.
You're the first. You're my test here. You're my test here because I usually just have my DJ. So let's see here. So, oh hey Sharon Tolliver, thanks for joining us. Let's see what I can do. Hang on, everybody. My favorite song. I see it's not just my favorite song. I see people are posting things over here. And it is, what is it, Sharon?
The Way You Make Me Feel.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. Tell me if you can hear it, Sharon. Can you hear it?
Like summer breeze, wind caressing the leaves. That's how your love holds on to me. Cool like the ocean winds, moist like a refugee. The way your love just sets me free. Oh, the way you make me feel. Our love is here to stay. Your feelings are so real. Yes, we'll always be this way. Footprints in the sand, we're walking hand in hand, watching sunrise and sunset. Dinner by candlelight, cuddle up all through the night, making love we won't forget. Oh, the way you make me feel. Our love is here to stay. Your feelings are so real. Yes, we'll always be this way.
Okay. I got it. I don't want to play the whole thing. I'm going to tease everybody. But I love that song. And so does Sharon Tolliver. She said it before I even played it. So she said, it's my song. She put it in there. Okay. Yeah, Sharon. I heard this song for the first time in Paris. Parisians love jazz and only think it's authentic if it comes from us. Ooh, that's what Sharon's saying. She heard your song the first time in Paris.
Wonder if I made any money off of that.
Oh, that's funny.
No royalties.
Oh, that's funny. I'm sure. I hope you did, Sharon. So, but tell us about that song because I've always loved that song.
Wow. A guy that I dated for a very long time, wonderful producer and guitarist named Vic Smiley. He did the music for that song, and one day I walked in the room and it was on, and I'm like, whoa, what is that? And he was like, just a song that I'm gonna do on my project, little instrumental. I'm like, I want that. He's like, no, I'm gonna use this. I'm like, no. I'm like, I hear the words. I hear them. I'm gonna write the words to this song. He was like, you write the words if you want to. That's my song. I'm like, I won though. I wrote the song, the lyric. He did the music, and And that's how it was. And it's funny because if you look inside that album cover, the EP cover,
Mm-hmm.
it says like vocals and stuff are recorded at Bedroom Music Studios. And people were like, "Where's that at?" And I'm like, "In my bedroom, in the closet." Because we were like, not shoestring budget, no string budget. We had spent our money buying the Pro Tools thing that he didn't even know how to use. That's the first song he ever did on the Pro Tools. And he was calling up people. He was cussing because he couldn't, he got it right, but we had the mic hanging from a hanger in the closet, and the clothes were, high and low because it was a walk-in closet. And he said that'll help because it'll, keep the song, the noise and the sound from bouncing. And I'm like, okay, Bedroom Music Studios, because I was in the closet in my bedroom recording that song. And he had the cables and cords going underneath the closet door, for everything. And he's sitting right outside with this little wooden desk that we had bought, that how men are. If you got 100 screws to put that desk together, it's going to be 60 of them sitting over there, which you're wondering, why didn't you put those screws in it? So you don't need all the screws they give you. Because I'm like, well, the desk, what are all those screws for? So the little desk was wobbling and the Pro Tools on it. But that's what we did that song on.
And that song was recorded in there?
In my closet. In my bed.
That is amazing.
He was in the bedroom and I was in the bedroom closet when we did.
I love it. I love that song. I was playing it the other day and my husband said, "Is that your cousin?" I said, yeah. He said, "Yeah." He said, "Every time I hear that," he said, "when I hear that, I think true jazz." That's what he said. And he doesn't listen to jazz a whole lot. I like jazz a little more than him. He'll listen to it, but he said, those were his exact words. He said, "When I hear that, I hear true jazz."
One day I'm going to do that song again. I'm going to do it over.
You're going to remake it? Mm-hmm. What you going to change? I don't know if I want you to change it.
Not really so much change it, but update it.
Okay.
The remix and I mean, I can hear it. Vic hears it too, because we've talked about it off and on for years and put a different production on it, because that's Bedroom Music Studios, but yet, a really nice production on it and stuff. So
now I can understand you wanting to update it from that perspective. So I just don't want you to change it because I love the song. So
we might even make it a little longer, put a couple solos in it and stuff.
So Sharon, if you could do now, I know you've done, I know at least one duet was it with Paul Brown, I think? Did you do a duet with, or he was on your song?
Well, Paul is a producer and a guitar player, and
so
he does some background vocals and a little singing. And the next single that's coming out on the album, and it'll be the last single before the actual album comes out, is called Heart of Mine. It was written primarily by Bobby Caldwell, and he sang it. And back in the 80s, Boz Scaggs sang it. Mm-hmm. And I've always loved that song and wanted to do it. So Paul produced it, and he did background vocals on it, and he played guitar on it. And it's really pretty. It came out very nice.
And I have to tell you, Sharon, I'll share this with you. You had sent me your information, and I was over a friend of mine's house, and I played it over there. The friend of mine happened to be the founding member of the group Switch, Gregory Williams. Mm-hmm. And he enjoyed your music. I have to tell you, he knew Heart of Mine. I wasn't familiar with that. And he said, "That's Heart of Mine. That's Heart of Mine." He knew he of course knew what it was. He said, "Oh, she sounds pretty good." He was really impressed with you. So kudos to you, coming from a legend, from Greg Williams. He enjoyed the music. He really liked it. I said, "Let me play my favorite for you." And of course, I played my favorite. I had to go back. Let me find it. But he enjoyed it. I just wanted to share that with you.
That's so nice to hear, because doing this album was an extreme challenge. because I was having, I have what's called a pseudocyst or translucent polyp on my right vocal cord.
Mm-hmm.
And I have three otolaryngologists, two vocal speech pathologists, a vocal coach, a vocal therapist, and without them,
Wow.
there wouldn't be Silhouette. There
Wow.
wouldn't be this album because I would not have been able to do it.
Mm.
I am so pleased with it. And of course, and anybody who's ever done any type of a artistic project, you're your worst critic, and there's always something that you would have done differently. And in this one, there would have been things I would have done differently had I been able at the time. But in Sincerely Yours, when I didn't have this, there were things that I would have done differently.
Right.
When you listen, I mean, anytime you listen to it, it's like, I would have done that differently. I should have done that differently. And then you listen to the song again, I would have done that differently. So, it's always,
Always.
yeah, there's always something different with the artistry. And you even hear it differently, each time you listen to it. Like when I go back now and listen to things on Sincerely Yours, or even on The Way You Make Me Feel, they sound totally different than they did, a
Oh,
year ago, 2 years ago, or, so.
but this project in particular, wow, God's grace and mercies were on you. If you were able to complete it with all the health obstacles and challenges that you went through, and you were
Hmm.
still able to do, um, what did you say it called you? What was you saying earlier in the interview? And you said one you chose and one chose you.
Hmm. Hmm. The singing chose me.
Right. So it still chose you and you were still able to do it. So to me, that's saying that God still wants you to do that. He provided you were able to still complete this project even with those obstacles. So that is wonderful,
Oh
Sharon.
yeah, my show in Youngstown, that was my first gig in a year since July of
It
last.
was.
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Partly because of COVID. I'm
Right, right.
fortunate in that I am not reliant on music to pay my bills, and because I felt bad for a
Ooh,
lot of people struggling,
yes.
and that wasn't me. I did not miss one paycheck, not one. Even got a brand new job in the middle of a pandemic.
Let's sing. Yes.
So I'm fortunate in that sense. So I could sit back during COVID. But then once I got ready to start up again, I'm like, what's wrong with my voice? What's going on?
Oh,
And then I found out that that was happening. So I wasn't
scary.
allowed to go back in the studio until April. And then I couldn't do any gigs until July, which was Youngstown the other day
Oh,
was the
wow.
first show.
I didn't
And
realize that. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I was at one point I was on weekends, at least one day per weekend, I was on
I remember.
complete vocal rest.
Yes.
No talking at it it was it was
Wow.
frightening. It was frightening. It was scary. And I didn't say anything, but one day I told my mom, I'm like, I'm scared. And she looked at me and she said, me too.
Oh.
Because I don't know what I would do if I just couldn't sing because of something like that.
Mhm.
Voices change as you get older and stuff, and maybe eventually it might go away. But for something like that, and a lot of times those things happen to opera singers and the singers who are overusing their voices or singing the wrong way. But I am 1000% sure of how mine got like that. Cataract surgery, and my retinas swelled up both times, and they were 2 years apart because they were supposed to be like a few weeks apart. But when I
Mhm.
got the left one done and my retina swelled up, they canceled the right one because they don't want you trying to heal both eyes at the same time. So two
Right.
years later, and because of the retina swelling, I was on a non-steroidal eye drop and a steroidal eye drop for a
Okay.
very long time. When I got the right eye done in November of 20, 2 weeks later, same thing, retina swelling. And I remember last summer telling my eye doctor, I can't do this. This steroid drop is killing my throat.
Oh,
And
okay.
he's like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm a singer, and this thing is just insane. My throat just goes berserk when that steroid hits it. And he said, can
Oh,
you taste it? And I'm like, yes.
oh wow.
And you know, steroids, you're not supposed to just stop them instantly. You kind of titrate the dose. But he said, I'm gonna stop it right now. He said, if the swelling, you know, should start going back up, you might have to get back on. But I was thinking, ain't happening, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but it didn't happen, you know. And I was on for so long that I think by the time I started feeling that, the damage had already been done,
Oh
you know.
wow.
Yeah. So
Well, we're
I'm
glad
working
you're
around
okay.
it.
We're glad you're okay.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah. And
you,
trying to avoid surgery. So
oh, I'm sure.
yeah, don't want it.
I understand. I want to go back to this question. So, as you said, Paul Brown was on that song, but is there anyone else you want to do a duet with? Is there anyone you want to do a duet with, I should say?
Oh man, if I had a choice to do a duet with a male singer, it would be Leslie Odom Jr.
Mm, okay.
That's
That's
who I would want
interesting.
to love. His voice is absolute perfection.
Now I got to
And I
go
just
listen.
love listening to him, and it's just butter. You know,
I love
it
it.
is. When he sings, it's like, ooh, that's butter.
What
And
you
I would
said it so. I told y'all she has this sultry, sexy way. Anyway, she says it's
I
better.
he would be my first pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any
Hmm.
females you wouldn't mind would like to do a duet with?
Wow. Olita Adams.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
I love her voice, her tone, her everything about her. And she would be my pick.
Very interesting choices, as Sharon says. Let me read you a couple of the comments. Um, Madden Gamer saying, hey. Um, E Groove's Old School Musics. This show is my intro to you. I have to look you up on iTunes. Sharon, you can sing. That's what he said. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And Sharon, like I said, she said, what an interesting choice out of those. Okay, let's talk about, because I'm saving we got a few more minutes. I want to make sure we get in the author and then we'll talk about your new release. So a little bit more. So you are also an established author. Tell us about that, how that came about and what your books are about.
My first book came out 19 years ago, and it's called My Brand New Leg. And it's a children's book, all rhyming like a little Dr. Seuss book. And I wrote it after my father died. My dad died in November of 2000. And I wrote the book in 2001. It came out in 2003. And it's two little girls at school, and one of them has a prosthetic leg, and the other girl has never seen it before, and she's wondering what she can do with this leg. Can she run? Can she swim? Can she, you know, do all these other things? Ride a bike? And she's showing her that yes, she can do everything all the other kids can do. And at the end, she wants to introduce her to all these other kids, and you know, introduce them to her new best friend and stuff. And I wrote that book after my dad died. In the last year of his life, he lost both his legs to diabetes complications.
Mm.
And one day he was in the hospital in Youngstown, and he still had one leg, but his right leg was gone, and to just below the knee. And a lady was walking past the hospital room, and she saw my mom in there, and she stopped in because she knew my mom. She had a little granddaughter with her, probably about 8 years old. And I knew she wanted to ask my dad about that leg because she could see it. But you know, as adults, we're like, don't look, don't stare, don't
Right,
ask.
right.
And it just got the best of her. So I'm just kind of sitting there back in the cut watching them like, oh, she gonna say something eventually. And finally she said, what happened to your leg? And my dad said, well, I got sick and they had to take it off. Did it hurt? And by the time they finished talking, she was like holding on to the bed rail, and she was just eye level with
Mhm.
his stump. And I thought that was just the coolest thing for her. She'll probably never tease
Mhm.
anybody or anything like
Right,
that because she's had the conversation.
right,
And most people with a disability don't mind you asking about it. They don't mind talking about it. They just, like anybody else, they don't want to be teased and ridiculed and laughed at and harassed.
right.
They don't want any of that, but they don't mind just talking about it. And that's how that book came into being. It was part of my catharsis and dealing with the grief of losing my dad.
And what's the name of it again?
It's called My Brand New Leg.
So everybody, if you have kids or even adults, you want to get that.
Mhm.
And then we have a more recent one, which I have to get from you because I can't wait because I always read about all the antics. So tell us about the new one.
The new one, which just came out the beginning of June, and it's called Frantastically Frances, The Sayings and Snarks of My Mama, the Senior. And it took me about 4 years to write it. It's just a compilation of entries of just things that my mother says, because my mom is 84 years old now, and although she's always been outspoken and unfiltered, I mean, there is a zero filter now. If it's in her head, it's a good chance it's going to come out of her mouth. And people, it kind of, I always wanted to do it. And then when I would post things on Facebook that she says, people would just go crazy. And they'd be asking me, your mother say anything good lately? What'd your mother say about the award show? And some people would DM me. One guy did. He was like, tell your mother we love her over here in Ethiopia.
Oh, wow.
And so people were like, you guys need a blog. You guys need a sitcom. You guys need a book. The book was already kind of in the works.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started pulling things from Facebook memories once Facebook memories started, thank God.
Yeah.
And then things that I remembered, things that I had jotted down.
Give us an example, Sharon. Anything you want to share.
The first entry in the book is, she says, Jane Fonda and I are the same age, and she was just arrested for the 5th time. She's got me beat. I was only arrested 3 times. You know?
Okay.
You know, and stuff like romance without finance is a nuisance. You know? And this thing, she said something about when she said, when I was younger, I was a Negro before they started calling us Black. And that was James Brown's fault because he made that song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. When I was young, if you called somebody Black, they beat your ass, you know?
Oh, that's funny. I could see these conversations going.
Oh, it's crazy. And one of my favorites is when she said, well, 2. One of my favorites is, what goes against the Bible goes against the Bible. I don't think God changed his mind. I love that, you know, because it's so profound, you know.
Yes.
And then she got mad at me one time because I washed a lot of her baseball caps. I don't know when my mother started wearing baseball hats. And I put a bunch of them in the washer and she got mad. She thought they were going to mess up. And she said, and some of them hadn't even been worn yet, like that one from Punta Kinte. And I'm like, Punta Cana, Mom?
I thought you said Kunta Kinte for me.
No, Punta Kinte.
Okay, I got it. That's funny.
And she got really soft with it at the end because I think she realized it was wrong because she's like that one from Punta Kinte.
So you might have to get some videos to go with these at some point.
Hilarious. Everybody that's reading it, I mean, people have said that they spit out stuff reading, what that they were eating and drinking, and you know, even the foreword. One guy said he barely even got through the foreword when I was talking about me and my sister growing up with her, and we understand now why she was the way she was, because she was a single parent and she was not about to relinquish control of her house to the teenagers, you know, which some parents do. They're scared of their kids. You know, like my mom would walk up right in your face and say, you want to hit me, don't you? And we were like, and maybe you were thinking I could take Mom, but then it was like, you know, so.
But you changed your mind after she got up in your face.
So everybody get the book. You can get it on my website, SharonRayNorth.com.
Yes, yes. And we'll make sure we leave that at the end again. We got just a couple more minutes I want to share. So tell us finally what we've been waiting to hear all about the new, we kind of talked a little bit about it, but your new release, your new CD. Tell us all about that.
It's called Silhouette, and it's my very first 10-song album. Produced 8 of the songs were produced by Chris Big Dog Davis.
Yes.
And he also produced Sincerely Yours. So I've been working with Chris now for about 7 or 8 years, and 2 songs produced by Paul Brown. And there are 3 beautiful covers on there. The cover of Heart of Mine, the cover of an Al Jarreau song, I Will Be Here For You, and a cover of Brenda Russell's Piano in the Dark.
Yes.
Which, I love that song. I've always loved that song. And then the rest are originals.
You did a good job on that too.
Yeah. And one song is an original by Vinx. And that's The Kiss That Wakes You. And I absolutely love that song. I heard it in his studio in France. And I told him, I said, Vinx, I want that song. He was like, okay. And then there's another musician called Brother Paul Brown, who Paul Brown sometimes work with. So if we have an original song by Brother Paul Brown called Fly Away, that's really beautiful. And my mother loves that song. It's a really slow ballad. It's pretty. I'm really happy with the way everything came out. Moments is on there, and that Moments was a single that actually released in 2019 featuring Marion Meadows on saxophone. And then the first song on the album is called You Make Me Wanna, and it features Arnetta Johnson on trumpet, and Arnetta is my cousin. She's your cousin too.
Is she? Okay. Hey, Arnetta. Okay.
And Arnetta plays in Beyonce's band. She's Beyonce's trumpet player.
I think I've seen her.
For quite a few years, and she plays with AJR, and she's played with a lot of, Terry Lane Carrington, a lot of people. She's not even 30 yet. And I was like, "Cuz, I want you on this song." She's like, "Okay, let's do it."
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, my first time having a family member on an album, so I'm excited to have her on there.
Yes.
I hope the album is also available on my website. People can order it now, even though it hasn't released officially to radio, but people can order it, and it'll go out to them now. They don't have to wait or anything. So yeah, so people have been ordering it.
So let's go ahead. Let me test my technical skills again, Sharon. And I have your video, We Should Be in Love.
We Should Be in Love. That was the last single.
Yes, and I love the video. So I wanted to just share it because do you have a new video out?
I don't.
Okay, this is only video. I was looking for something.
This is the only one I did for the album, and I was so excited because I did the lyrics for quite a few of the songs on the album, but I did the lyrics and the melody for this, and then a good friend of mine did the video. He also shot video Saturday in Youngstown. So
great. Well, We Should Be in Love. Then it has Silhouette, but it's not. Is it not on this CD? Are you saying
it is?
It is. Okay, that's what I thought.
The song is actually called We Should Be in Love, Silhouette.
Okay.
Yeah, and the album is called Silhouette.
That's why I was confused. Okay, so that is part of the name of that song. Got it. Thank you for the clarification. My bad. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and have a little bit of We Should Be in Love. If Tanya can do it, which I believe I can. Hold on, everybody. I can do it. I can do it. And there we go.
Imagining you on the shore, stars like you in silhouette. Your tide is rising, rushing deep in me, making me so wet. And all I want is to hold you, feel you next to me, tell you you're all I want, you're everything I need. We should be in love, counting the hours till I see the pleasures night will bring. The wine and candles and the slow dance, how your romance me. And all I want is to kiss you, feel your lips on mine. You are my fantasy, my grateful love divine. We should be in love. We were in love. Every day would feel like spring, and every night the heat of summer love making. If we were in love, all my dreams would become real. You would have all of me. You know just how I feel. How I feel.
Okay, I hate to stop it. I'm really getting into it, but you all can go to YouTube and see it and buy it and purchase, go to her website and all that good stuff. We'll make sure we leave it again at the end. Sharon, if you could leave one piece of advice to those watching that are aspiring to be a music artist or be in this business, what would you tell them?
Just do it. Just do it. There are so many different levels to it, that there's some place where you'll fit in. You may not become the Beyonce, but there's always some place that you can do it. And if that's what you want to do, go for it.
Great advice. And Sharon asked, and I was going to ask you this as well in closing, are you performing? You have any upcoming concerts where people can see you? Can you give us some of those?
Yes. Next Thursday, the 21st, I'm a featured artist with a band called Phase 2 at Blues Alley in Washington, D.C.
Ooh, nice.
And on July 29th, I am in Fairfax County at the Mason District Park Amphitheater, part of a summer concert series. The last weekend in August, I don't remember which dates they are, that Saturday I'm at Shay's Lounge in Columbia, South Carolina. The next day I'm at St. James Live Gospel Brunch. And September 2nd, Labor Day week, in Atlanta, St. James Live. September 2nd, where am I September 2nd? Oh, Tin Pan in Richmond, Virginia. And I think I think there might be a few more in the works, but that's all I can remember right now.
They're on the website.
Yeah.
Yes. And Sharon said, what was the DC date again?
The 21st. So next Thursday.
Next Thursday, Sharon. 21st. Great. So you've got some great, you might have kicked it off in Youngstown, but you're on a roll now. You got several dates coming up, it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for visiting me today. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yes. We want to support you, everybody. Go ahead, order her CDs, order her books. You would not be disappointed. Go see her in concert. If she's coming near you, please support. Let's support our artists and live music, because we didn't have it for a minute. COVID shut stuff down, and we need to, it's so nice to have it. So we need to support it. So,
yeah.
And we want to definitely support you, Sharon. So again, I thank you so very much for joining us. Everybody, go to her website and give them your website again, Sharon.
Sharon, SHARON, Ray, RAE, North, NORTH.com. SharonRayNorth.com.
And is that also your handles on all social media? Is it Sharon Ray North?
Everything, because that's all I'd remember.
That's right. There you go. So follow her on her social media pages. Order her music, order her books. Thank you all for coming and watching KAMDI Conversations. We appreciate you, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and my Facebook page so you won't miss any of our wonderful artists that come to visit. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Sharon.